Tom, welcome in. You heard our open Coach Pittman discussing the crowd noise that Arkansas will have to factor in for the first time all week. The biggest opposition, in my opinion, is not that. It's going up against the likes of Ollie Gordon. He mentioned they had some struggles in that week one bout against UAPB. Maybe some issues that you noticed from week one that were kind of overshadowed by the dominance that have to get cleaned up by this game against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Always a pleasure. The special teams, if you got a hand on somebody's back on a punt return, a lot of times that's going to get called. And so, they lost a ton of yardage on 2 punt returns. But otherwise, the O-line played very well. And I'm kind of currently writing a piece right now about how you can compare the stats from that game versus the game in 21 and versus Western Carolina last year, the opener in Little Rock, similar type circumstances, but they only got 379 yards or something like that in that game, maybe 390. Well, if you want to be a strong statistical team and, rank up there, you got to pile them up in the games like they just played, and they did that. I mean, when you start out with 687 yards, that number is going to come down when you start playing Oklahoma State in your SEC schedule. But they capitalized basically on everything. They converted every third down. So, tackling, that was a big point of Saturday's practice was to go out there and tackle better because Ollie Gordon, I watched a bunch of the South Dakota State game, at least highlights of it, and I listened to it on the radio, and quite often South Dakota State guys would bounce off him, and he has this particular move when he's getting hit. He spins into the guy, and he gets extra yards just right there at the point of contact. So that's going to be a big deal in this game.
Yeah. So how do you stand the guy? I don't know that you can solo tackle this guy often enough. Landon probably can, but how many on this Arkansas 2-deep defensively could solo tackle this guy? At full steam, full speed. Standing him up and gang tackling is going to be the key here.
That's a great point. And if you can't get 2 guys to him, you're running into some trouble. And, yeah, there'll be an occasional guy who, goes low and, takes out his legs or something like that. But if you just get there and wrap him, he's going to keep moving his feet until you get help, and he's going to get extra yardage out of it. And if it's just one guy here in the hole and then one guy on the second level, he could break both of those and turn it into a really long gainer. I mean, that's why he's the Doak Walker Award winner. That's why he has so much yards after contact. He's a really good back.
So does the team that leads rushing yards win this game? I mean, is it that simple, or is there going to be a lot more to it than that?
I haven't thought about it in those terms, but, I mean, it could be. I mean, Arkansas clearly wants to be able to establish the run. Taylen Green gives them an extra dimension as a runner, and we saw that early on with a 20 or 30-yard gain on that naked that went for a first down, then obviously on the big scramble right before halftime. So those are big, but there are other factors. I mean, when you look at the South Dakota State game, Oklahoma State only outgained them by, 15 or 20 yards total. Both of them were in the high 300s, but Oklahoma State dominated on the scoreboard. So, those things can be misleading.
Tom Murphy with us here, courtesy of Arkansas Beef Council. Tom, the communication is going to be a huge deal. You heard Pittman reference, and I want to touch on that. This is Taylen's first game that he'll really have to kind of dig in and hear what Coach is saying through the helmet. They'll go up against a hostile crowd on Saturday. First time that's all season. How do you think the offense handles it after playing in a predominantly home crowd in Little Rock?
Well, you're right. That's going to be a big point of a focus on this game. You saw a lot of quarterbacks on the opening weekend covering up those ear holes to try to hear what their coordinator was saying. And, Arkansas will have a backup plan. I mean, if they have to signal it in, they'll do that. They'll huddle a good bit. It could come into play. And, Bobby Petrino was pretty open during camp talking about how there was a little bit of a struggle because it's only one-way communication. And does Taylen understand what he's saying? And so there was a little bit of miscommunication during camp. But hopefully they have a good backup plan in place that they can signal something in. if he doesn't get the call.
Tom, you referenced watching the Oklahoma State game this weekend. I'm going to guess that you watched some other college football games, including some Arkansas opponents. Tommy asked a good question earlier about our opinions maybe being changed. As you watch some of the other games, did your opinions change of any Arkansas opponent for this upcoming season?
Well, unfortunately, they're not playing Florida State this year because that looks like it'd be a different monster than it might have been. But I'm thinking through. I mean, I didn't see much of Bama. I didn't see Auburn at all. I didn't see any Ole Miss. LSU, obviously, I watched it all. And, they'll get better. Just as they've lost their opener against Florida State the last couple of years, they got better and better. And Garrett Nussmeier, obviously a coach's son, I'm sure he knows the scheme inside and out, but I think he went to checkdowns a little too often. So they're going to have to improve what they're doing, and they will be by the time Arkansas plays them. But A&M, there were some deficiencies there. Now they were playing a very good team in Notre Dame. So that game's a little bit closer than LSU for Arkansas. So we'll find out more about the Aggies here in a few weeks. But as far as my opinion changing, look, I didn't have A&M in my top 25 in the preseason. I just thought with the coaching change and, they weren't a great team last year, and their run game was not very good last year. So I didn't see them as a top 25, and I certainly don't now after they lost.
Tom Murphy with us, brought to you by the Arkansas Beef Council. Back to Monday's yesterday's, I guess, Monday's press conference with Sam Pittman. Patrick Kutas had an MRI done last week. I think the word exactly was doubtful for this week. What do you read into this, and when might he return to the Arkansas offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, we were hearing in camp, Sam Pittman would say, he might be back by this coming Saturday or at least the next Monday, and it kind of kept dragging on. So maybe what they were hoping was happening with his back isn't a best-case scenario. And quite honestly, he's missed so much time now that I don't think even if he, say, were to be back next Monday, that he would be in game shape for week 3. And the fact that Imarian Harris has played so well, I mean, it would take a while, I would think, before Kutas could unseat him if he did. And you've heard Sam Pittman say that Imarian Harris isn't number 5 in their rankings of all their O-linemen. He might be 3 or 4. So I don't know, and it sounds to me like we've entered a phase of we're not seeing practices. The injury reports for SEC games are going to start coming out. Mm-hmm. I mean, this week we'll see one tomorrow, I believe, for South Carolina, Kentucky. But I think we're going to see less volunteered information out of Sam Pittman on Mondays because there's the mandatory Wednesday report. He did not elaborate very much on Kutas or on Andrew Armstrong, just questionable, and that was it. And then, Miguel Mitchell didn't travel, and we know he was down on the depth chart second or third behind, T.J. Metcalf in camp, and the only response on that was, he's out for now. We don't know what that means. So we'll have to see going forward what the injury situation looks like.
Tom, it's been more than 40 years, but it's going to be Arkansas and Oklahoma State this Saturday in Stillwater, and we'll pick up the conversation later this week and get ready for Arkansas's first big Power 5 test of the season.
Outstanding. Talk to y'all then.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.